And welcome. Chris, figures out this week confirm the biggest back-to-back increase in household lending for a decade. So what does that mean?
Shelley, it was really interesting actually. It clearly shows that falling interest rates are having a big impact. Now, as you said, July and August represented the biggest jump in loans in a decade. Rates have since come down even lower since then, so this story is really only beginning. Now, I think in this research, two big things stand out. 30% of the market is now made up by first home buyers. That is a new 7.5-year high. They're really sensing some urgency here as prices rebound in places like Sydney and Melbourne. Now, on top of that, well, as you can see there, so 7.5-year high, 30% of the market now, something that was basically inconceivable a few years ago. Now, on top of that, loan values are back near their record highs. The average loan value in August was $425,000, which is 2.4% higher than it was a year ago, Shelley.
Really? 425 as a loan? And we're talking median house prices around $650, something like that at the moment. So yeah. I guess that's confidence that people aren't borrowing too much above their means.
It is. It's interesting. Of course, it is a national figure. It will be much higher in Sydney and Melbourne, and also it does incorporate refinancing, and we're seeing a jump in that as people do search around for better deals on their mortgages.
Like we've been telling them week after week.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, elsewhere in the news this week, NAB has announced a pledge of $2.4 billion over the next 3 years to support an affordable and social housing initiative. The number of people on the waiting list for public housing has soared to a staggering 189,000 people over the last decade. So this is both great news for the sector and some much needed good PR for NAB, because as we know, they've been dragged through the mud a little bit with the Royal Commission and rates and things like that. Launch Housing, which is one of Victoria's largest not-for-profit housing support groups, could lead the charge here to create houses for those in need. And Shelley, we know that Launch did a segment on The Block this week.
Yes, we did, along with Colorbond and The Block. We put together some of these tiny houses. It's a great initiative, and basically it really is giving those people their first lift back into what hopefully helps them build a better life for themselves. So for those most in need or most at risk of housing, Launch is on board. So hopefully, as you say, we can be very sceptical about why NAB is doing this, or we can just say, OK, let's keep on their back now. Let's make sure that this money gets across the line.
A pathway to the money. I mean, that's really the most important thing to focus on here, I think.
Yep, that's it. For those that are in the money and going to auction, we've got some big numbers around the country this week.
We certainly do. In Melbourne, 839 auctions. That is well up from last week.
They're back.
They're back. They're back into it. Now, in Sydney, 624. So last week was around 190 as the NRL Grand Final really took hold. So back to 624 this week in Sydney. Brisbane, 96. Adelaide, 62. And over in Perth, nice number 12 there in terms of auctions. Now, while we're talking about auctions, the old saying, every dollar counts, Shelley, has never really been more evident than the sale of this home in Melbourne. So it's a beautiful 5-bedroom, really stylish Edwardian property. Yes. I know, right? So this is 9 Bayview Street in Northcote. Sold for a smidge over $3.5 million. Now, smidge is the right word here because it was $50 over $3.5 million to be exact. So really, the lesson here is don't discount that small bit at the end. It could be the trick to getting the dream home that you really want.
So that goes for your expressions of interest.
Yeah,
just put in your best price. That's basically your one-off offer. Put in an odd number, like a 50 or a 75 at the end, and you never know.
It worked in this case. It's a beautiful 5-bedroom property.